Well, good evening, and I welcome you all to the Cumberland County Commissioners meeting of March 13th, 2007. I call the meeting to order. For all of you, or any of you, who would like to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Is that I ask that everybody would please shut off your cell phones, because if it goes off or during a meeting, will pick up, and it makes with the audio all messed up. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Let me make sure that mine's off. I usually will forget it. Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes with the regular meeting of minutes of February 15th, 2017.
Move passage.
Second.
Do I have any discussion on the minutes or corrections or omissions? Is hearing none? As I call for a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is at this time is public or comments, and I'm going to do something here a little bit different. I'm going to, refer to you, Peter, and if you would like to make your announcement, then, go for it.
You think I have a special announcement, Madam Chair?
Well,
Thank you very much. I've been with Cumberland County for 18 years. Cumberland County government is, I think, the best county government in New England. We're not perfect, but I think we do a great job in a lot of different ways. I have enjoyed the experience that I've had here. I have had the opportunity to work with a great group of people. I am now going to be the city manager for the city of Auburn, Maine. I've been offered that position, I've accepted it, and I can only hope that the group of employees there, the staff, the elected officials, and everyone are able to meet the same standard that the folks here in Cumberland County have, and I'm sure they will. I've had the opportunity to meet a number of them already, and I will tell you, I know we've had our differences, and we have our differences now from time to time, but I hope everyone realizes that the commissioners and the leadership team for the county are trying to do what's in the best interest of the county and utilizing the financial and personnel resources that we have available. It's not always easy, but maybe there are ways that we can address issues that we haven't thought about in the past. But please think positively about me and the contribution that I've tried to make and the work that I've done with folks here and who aren't here. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter.
Peter, and thank you for your service to the county.
Yes, and I wish you well. Okay, with the next item on the agenda is comments from the public. I will make with a recommendation that if you're going to speak, that you pick a spokesman is who will speak for you, and you will have a total of 3 minutes. Do we have a spokesperson?
We have one. This is a resident, but we have one spokesperson that will speak for us.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sue Hawes. I've lived in Cumberland County since 1995. And as this gentleman pointed out, I am here independently. As Commissioner Cloutier can attest to, about a month ago I had contacted him with some concerns. And I'm here tonight to find out what the commissioners can do to help ensure a safe environment at Cumberland County Jail for employees and inmates. I don't want my husband, Deputy Philip Hawes, a 10-year veteran at Cumberland County Jail and Master Corrections Officer, to work in an unsafe environment. I'm concerned about jail staffing issues, including the ability to retain staff, extensive use of overtime pay, and an increase in holdovers where the officer is prevented from leaving at the end of their shift. Staff appear to be leaving county jail employment in high numbers. We recently said goodbye to Officer Bell, but over recent time, we seem to be saying goodbye to a number of folks. With new hires hard to come by, officers are stretched with overtime, and holdovers are becoming commonplace. Overtime and holdovers not only burns out employees, it's also an expensive way to operate. I also believe the reductions of the staff to inmate ratio of the past year or two place jail staff in a vulnerable and unsafe situation. My understanding is that where 2 officers previously worked in a pod of 60 to 80 inmates, there's now 1 officer managing all of the activities associated with the pod, including regular reporting, incident reporting, room checks, listening to training videos, escorting inmates for external programs, etc. Only 1 officer to meet the needs of 60 to 80 inmates. And when the inmates are in the day room, 1 correctional officer is alone with over 30 inmates. With the reduced staffing throughout the jail, are emergency response times what they were 3 years ago? If my husband is overtaken by an inmate and unable to alert emergency staff, if there is any emergency staff with the staffing shortage, how long will the response time be? I requested some information from Sheriff Joyce in a letter dated March 6th. I'm going to distribute a copy of my testimony in that letter for you. I would like to know the number of hours and total overtime dollars paid at the jail for the last 10 years, by quarter, as well as an inmate to staff ratios since 2012. I hope this information will shed light on the current staffing conditions at the jail. I hope I can count on you, our county commissioners, to ensure county corrections officers and the inmates are safe and that enough staff is employed to meet the needs of the jail. Thank you. And if you have any questions to me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan,
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll go.
we have an opportunity later in the meeting to address issues of the hour, and we certainly will want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, thank you. So is that the section, the comments section later in the meeting? Comments from?
That would be under executive session, Jim? Is that where you're referring?
No, I was talking about comments from commissioners.
Okay,
Oh,
so in the
okay.
comments, yeah,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
And who
I'm-
can I give the testimony to? There's 8 copies, hopefully that's enough.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is David Skibitsky. I work down at the jail. I'm going to start out what I have to say with a letter that was addressed to the sheriff, written by the Maine Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, dated March 9th of this year. The letter reads, "Dear Sheriff Joyce, I am writing as president and on behalf of the Maine Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers regarding problems attorneys are experiencing when visiting with their clients at Cumberland County Jail. I have heard from numerous Maine Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers members who have experienced excessive wait times while trying to meet with their clients at CCJ. In one recent example, a lawyer waited approximately 45 minutes for his client to be brought from the maximum security unit to the interview rooms without the client ever being brought over. At that point, the lawyer was forced to leave without seeing his client because his schedule required him to be elsewhere. Unfortunately, it has become routine for defense lawyers to wait long periods of time for their clients to be escorted for interviews. It is clear from the observations of these lawyers and from their conversations with corrections officers that these excessive wait times are the result of the jail being woefully understaffed. While I expect you are aware of this fact, I think it is important for you to understand how it affects the day-to-day operation of the jail and how it is interfering with the defense bar's ability to meet with its clientele. This problem results in not only lost time but also lost money. For those clients who privately retain lawyers, they are paying for their lawyers to wait. And for those clients with court-appointed lawyers, the cost is borne by the state and the taxpayers, who pay for the wait time of these lawyers. It seems that the cost of hiring additional corrections officers to adequately staff the jail would be less than the cost over time of court-appointed lawyers waiting longer than necessary for interviews. Lastly, I understand from recent news reports that CCJ and other jails are understaffed in part because it is hard to attract new corrections officers with the current wages being offered. I understand that you are constrained by a budget, but on behalf of the defense lawyers who go to your jail every day, I urge you to take whatever steps necessary to secure additional funding and hire additional officers so that lawyers and inmates are no longer left waiting and waiting and waiting before being able to meet to discuss their cases. Thank you for your time and consideration. And that is signed by the Maine Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers President, Amy T. Robidas. This letter just goes to show how the jail is being operated on a daily basis. Corrections officers are asked to do the job of multiple individuals as a single person throughout the day, throughout their shift, 8 hours, 16 hours a day. As some of these signs do reflect, you are running a correctional sweatshop in the jail. We are asked to recruit our own friends to work as employees at the jail. I can't ask one of my friends to work at the jail. I know the conditions that I work at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the commission, I'm the attorney for the NCEU, but I'm not here to speak on that particular issue. My name is John Richardson. I'm a resident of Cumberland County. I just learned today that Peter would be leaving the county. That's a big loss, Peter. I want to say for myself and on behalf of the 40 correctional officers here, you definitely will be missed. It was a pleasure to work with you. In my 28 years of practicing law, I've worked primarily in the public sector. So I've dealt with many county managers and city and town managers, and you're one of the best. And, you know, we have a lot of issues coming before us, as you can see from the signs that are behind you, and it's unfortunate your departure because I've seen and worked with you in the past, and your innovation and ways to look at solutions was much appreciated. So it's a big loss for Cumberland County, a lot of shoes I think to fill. I'm sure you'll get to that point and find someone that's capable. But I just want you to know, Peter, as far as I'm concerned and concerned with the people behind me, you know, we wish you all the best, but you definitely will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you for those.
Hi, I am Officer DeVoe. I work at Cumberland County Jail. I've been there a little over 10 years now. I have won several Officer of the Month awards, a unit combination, Corrections Officer of the Year for 2015. But this past year, I have never felt that a bigger threat to the inmates and to myself for safety. It is very high at CCJ right now. The newly imposed inmate ratio, 86-1, since the beginning of my employment of CC at Cumberland County. This change has gone from 58-1, and then it's 64-1, and now it's 86-1, with a direct supervision, where the officer is right in the middle of all the inmates. Due to the quantity of inmates and daily responsibilities placed on the officers, running a pod is no longer possible to give the appropriate amount of attention and keeping track of inmates and our other responsibilities. And I do have a list of those that are expected in a pod daily. For us to manage all of that for their safety as well as our own. Since the staff has changed, I've witnessed a higher quantity of fights and resulting in injuries that are much more serious, along with seeing a lot more mental illness cases with all of this that we face every single day, 8 hours a day. The nature of issues that we deal with are not part of the scheduled shifts of real dangers, ranging from low-level issues, medical issues, to dealing with interpersonal issues between inmates at one end of the spectrum, to suicides, drug overdoses, riots on the other end. This is not a place where it is safe to be understaffed, undertrained, or to take risks. Yet, this is what I feel the conditions are now. That's all I have to say.
Do we have anybody else that would like to speak?
About 3 weeks ago, I met with the union leadership to acknowledge the fact that I wouldn't be enforcing the uniform policy to allow them to grow beards, leave their shirts untucked. However, to protest not having a contract. We have struggled within the last year to retain people, to hire people. I've seen unprecedented numbers of job fairs that the staff has gone to try to bring people in. Whether it's corrections, law enforcement, corrections medical, this has been a struggle for the last couple of years. We can't compete with law enforcement agencies that are willing to give $14,000 sign-on bonuses, $5,000 sign-on bonuses. What you see behind me is individuals that come to work every day, do the job. Recently, we were reaccredited, got a 98.5, which is really 100, because the other 1.5 is unattainable with our facility the way it is. They will never get to 100%. But whether it's an ICE audit, a marshal's audit, a DOC audit, actually DOC finally just came down and recognized that we had a community correction center, because that doesn't fall under ACA, or even for the law enforcement that's looking at their contract as well. The chief and I ride on their coattails. They're the ones that do the work. And I've come to understand the job of corrections, not having worked a day in their life. But about 3 weeks ago, I get 3 pass downs a day from corrections and 3 from law enforcement. One of the pass downs from the jail was an individual that had mental illness. They went into the maximum security unit, and when they were trying to recover a tray, he threw fecal matter at the corrections officer. I'm not sure that these guys and ladies signed up to have bodily fluids thrown at them. As a police officer, the best I had to worry about was maybe getting spit on. And guess what? For that hour that I had to put up with an individual, I dropped him off at the jail, got back in my car, rolled down the windows, turned on the radio, and I was by myself. They are correct in the fact that there's a lot of overtime. There are people working overtime, and thank God they are, because oftentimes we're running at minimum staffing. Now, what's minimum staffing? Minimum staffing was when I brought my command staff together and said, what are we willing to go down to in order to not order people in? Because people didn't want to get ordered in. The millennials, the generation X and Ys, time is more important than them. Time and money. So I'm guessing, although I don't know this, that there are a lot of people of our generation that are working a ton of overtime, and then there are others that are going, hey, if you can get 40 hours out of me, see you later, I'm done. On any given day, these guys are dealing with mental health, CIT. They're a listener. They're a negotiator. They're getting thrown around. Thankfully, it doesn't happen very often because they are trained. They're a first aid nurse. They're whatever they can be in that moment in time, depending on what's presented for them in that pod. 15 years ago, I was told that we were down 40 officers. Thankfully, I guess 22 is not bad. Although I will say good news today, we hired 2 people, so we're down to 20 with another 3 that potentially will get hired within the next week. But we're not seeing the applicants come in, whether it's law enforcement or corrections. And we know that we need about 5 people to get 1 good officer. I was approached by the jail command staff about lowering the standards, not doing polygraphs. I'm not willing to do that. All of these folks took polygraphs and met a criteria to get into the jail. And the minute we start lowering our standards, the professionalism goes. These folks are professional because they had to go through a professional hiring. And to cut standards just doesn't do it to fill positions, in my opinion. We've gone to job fairs. Last week, I went over and hung out at a job fair where 2 corrections officers were there. I purposely came in without a uniform, and I just stood off and watched. Portland PD was there. Department of Corrections was there. We were there, and Immigration, Border Patrol was there. And then everybody else was private sector people. And people would walk by and give us the nod and stuff and just continue on through. We maybe got 5 people to sign our list that they might be interested. And to my knowledge, we haven't got anything as far as an application to do that. Yet the other private sectors, they were pretty busy. I don't know if it's because it's a tough time in criminal justice and law enforcement. I guess what I'm trying to say is this. I know that retirement is one thing. I can tell you 30 years ago, I didn't sign up looking at retirement, but I'm seeing people that are really concerned about retirement. This is a young guy's sport. At 23, I remember somebody saying, when you're 40 or 50, you'll be wanting to get out. Well, I'm not wanting to get out, but I'm realizing that every time I get out and out of bed, that little creak and stuff, or I get on the treadmill, you know, I'm not probably the type of guy that wants to roll around with an 18, 19-year-old at this point. So retirement is a big thing. I guess my thing is this. We are proud of these guys and gals because we are a Triple Crown accreditation agency in the state of Maine. There's nobody else like that. And I've told, whether it's the law enforcement side, the correction side, you've had to work to that. They've had to meet 468 some odd standards. Again, I can't take credit for that because they're the ones that do it day after day. And when somebody says they're coming in and doing an audit, yeah, okay, no problem. Bring them in. Bring 6. We'll do 6 audits at a time. That's how confident these folks are. So I know the chief and the command staff have been working with the negotiations. I know that we don't have a lot to say about financial, and I have an unusual spot because I sit on the fence and I look over both sides. I'm up there alongside you folks trying to make sure that we get funding for the jail, and I understand how hard that is. I'm also looking at them saying, you know, if somebody's looking at a job that pays $16 an hour, let's say, and we offer a job at $17.80 an hour, and that job doesn't require getting urine and fecal matter thrown at you, I might lose the extra $2 an hour and not have to work nights, weekends, and holidays. So I ask you to really consider that. Now, I know we can't do anything in 2017. I've tried to explain to the membership that the budget is set, the tax bills are out. It's an impossibility. What I think can happen is, looking forward in 2018, something that holds these professionals here, but also attracts other people that can fill those gaps. Because I would agree. People should deserve their time off. They shouldn't be held over. And quite frankly, the toll that we cannot measure is on their family. I've got some people working 16 hours a day. Now, good for them, you know, when they cash a check, they get all kinds of money. But the toll that's taken on their family life, it can't be weighed in money. So I appreciate you considering that. I'm sure we'll be talking in the future, but these guys are what makes the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office rock and roll, not me. I get to ride the coattails. So thank you.
Okay. If there are no other comments or anything, the public comment section is closed, and we will move on.
Madam Chair, I
Okay.
move that we approve the consent agenda items of 17012 through 17016, and we'd ask Amy to read them into the record as we have.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, Amy, would you please do that?
Certainly. 17-012 is approval of the Cumberland County 2017 Hazard Mitigation Plan. 17-013 is approval of the reappointing of the Board of Assessment Review members. 17-014 is approval for the Sally Port for inmate cell area. 17-015 is approval of the increase in civil processing fees, and 17-016 is approval for the vehicle uplifting.
Do we have any concerns with any of those? As I call for a vote, is all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Moving on. Peter, I'm going to defer this for section to you, because I think you've got two people here that are here for the informational report. I do not see Malcolm.
I saw him heading this way from the street.
I believe Malcolm is here, he's probably in the hallway.
Okay.
Malcolm, it's your moment in the sun here, so to speak.
Perfect.
Malcolm Ulmer is the manager of the Maine County Commissioner Association Risk Pool. He's here to give an annual update to the board and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Malcolm.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me this evening. I know you have a lot going on here, so I'll try to get right to the point. I have a handout that's coming around and a couple of handouts, and what I'd like to do is give you a kind of a snapshot of where we are right now in terms of your most recent renewal with the risk pool, and then just take a quick walk down through about the last 15 years of your pricing to really focus in on the stability that the risk pool has provided. Starting with the first handout, does everyone have a copy of that?
Yeah. This one?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Peter, did you get one?
I did not,
here.
but that's all right. No, it's more
But I
important that
can
you
share.
have it.
You want to just give him a
I'm
minute?
fine.
Yeah,
Oh.
just to clear the room. or clear
Okay,
the-
yeah, why don't you just hold up and we'll clear, and then it will be.
Yep, pass that.
Yep.
Whoops.
Whoa.
Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a snapshot of your renewal for the 2017 coverage period, and what it does is it gives you a rundown of the various exposure data that we look at as part of your renewal. And you can see, just running down from top to bottom, Cumberland County had nearly $75 million in property values, nearly $41 million in gross budgets. That would be for every part of the operation, jail, general budget, any kind of enterprise budgets, contracted law enforcement, anything at all of that nature. It takes into account expenditures only, doesn't take into account revenues that might flow back into the county. Automobiles, there were 115. Those would include patrol vehicles, maintenance vehicles, specialty vehicles such as the peacekeeper vehicle in the law enforcement division. Employees would include any positions at all that would have been reported to us as part of your renewal. That was reported at 410. Claims payments in the last 5 years, these are actual payments going out either to the county or on behalf of the county, totaled $1,061,000 during the 5 prior years. Claims TI, which would be total incurred, those would include the payments as well as reserves that are set aside on open cases. Those combined to total $1,748,000. And then, of course, the member assessment. That's effectively your premium that you pay to the risk pool. That was $409,000. And then the columns to the right really give you a look back over the past couple of years in terms of your share out of the entire risk pool operation. And so you can see property values represent 20% of the overall insured values of all counties. Budget's about 20%, automobiles 18, employees 22, claim paid 27%, claims paid and reserved 33%, and assessments 16%. And so what this is showing you is that you're getting a bang for your buck in terms of what your premium is compared to what the risk pool is providing for coverage and what your claims are. Based on the breakout of exposure, we would expect to see your premium slightly higher than it is, but as you look at the older years, your premiums actually held pretty much flat at 16% of the overall operation, even as some of your exposure items have increased a little bit. So premiums holding flat, which is always a good thing. If you would turn the page, this gives you a look back nearly 15 years in time, back to 2003. And it's giving you an overview of your premiums, your property values, your budgets, your vehicles, and your employee counts over this period of time. And so you can look at the development of all of this data, and what you're seeing is that your member assessments or your premiums are actually about 10 or 11% lower in 2017 than they were back in 2003. So you've had increases obviously in your property values and your other exposure items, but your premium is actually lower. What the risk pool is doing is it's really running a very lean and mean, if you will, very efficient operation, and we've been able to drive down the costs of our administration costs, of our reinsurance costs, and really effectively our claims costs over this very long period of time. So that is reflected in what you pay to us. One of the things that we take great pride in is trying to give you stable, dependable pricing. And so stable in terms of knowing that from one year to the next, it's not going to jump up by even 5 or 10%. We've really been able to keep our increases to about 1% over the last 7 or 8 years. And in your case, you can see the premiums have gone down. And then stable and dependable in terms of what the coverage is. Over this 15-year period of time, we've not restricted our coverage. We've actually expanded it in several different ways to enhance it. And we're also looking at enhancing it right now with the addition of a cyber liability coverage that we've been working on for the past several months. So we're always looking to enhance coverage, enhance service, while also keeping our premiums as flat as possible. I think most of you know, but if you don't, the risk pool was formed in 1989. Cumberland County was an original core member, so you've been with us now for 28 years. The risk pool's goals when we started out were to always be able to offer coverage, to always be available for the counties. You operate in a very high-risk business, especially with the jails and the law enforcement piece. And so we wanted to always be here. We also wanted to have stable pricing, and we wanted to be able to generate savings for the counties over the long haul. And so those remain our goals. I'm happy to answer questions.
Commissioner Gordon, would you have a question?
Yeah, well, and a comment too. As we all know here, but the public may not know, is that we went to the marketplace to test what the value of the risk pool versus what the public sector could give us, and we found that it was very competitive. And so my hat's off to the risk pool for that. You touched upon the topic of cyber insurance, and do you have any idea when we'll be able to obtain that, Malcolm?
It's going to be available for review by the Risk Pool Board of Directors, I would say, in the next 30 to 60 days. We've been going through a process now for the past several months where we've looked at a lot of different options. We've narrowed them essentially down to one. We're now looking to take that language and to modify it so it's consistent with our coverage document that we utilize. But we've made quite a bit of progress in the last 3 months. And so I'm hoping either at April or May it will be presented for approval.
And the last question is something that I know that we've touched on at the board meeting, but as you understand, Cumberland County is it's the largest county that there is in the state. And as a result, our executive staff is organized in a different manner than most of them. We no longer have a treasurer, we have a CFO. And I guess I put forth not necessarily a question, but the comment that what we would really like to have this board, anyway, or this commission, is to have our CFO be the alternate to the risk pool. Because quite frankly, when the information comes, I sit down and I talk with the CFO about what's his thinking, what's his analysis, et cetera. And it just seems to make sense that as financing gets more and more sophisticated, that it would be a great talent for the risk pool to be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, I really, truly appreciate your comments. I think you were at the meeting, February, I believe, where there was some discussion about that. There was no action taken, but that certainly doesn't mean the topic is dead by any means. That would be a board decision. But I assume it'll be discussed again in the future.
Malcolm, just for my edification, what exactly would a cyber coverage benefit, what would it cover?
Well, it would cover losses flowing from data breaches. If there was a breach, financial information of customers of the county was disclosed and then used for bad purposes. It would also cover expenses incurred by the county in connection with notifying those folks who had their data disclosed. So it really fills a couple of different roles.
Okay. But it's not, so it's not protection of computers and so forth. I mean, that's
No,
not the physical.
it's the data. It's the
Okay.
data, the financial losses that would flow from the data loss.
Okay. I'll be interested to hear how that comes out.
So when WikiLeaks takes our information, that won't help?
Right. Yeah, it won't help.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick question to follow up. Malcolm, on this cyber insurance, some communities are being hijacked and locked down. And until that community coughs up in a sense, the ransom, that is in play all the time. Is that something that would be covered by such an insurance?
That's one of the things we're looking at, because not all cyber liability policies offer that ransom piece as part of it. So we're certainly evaluating that. And ultimately, what's going to happen is we're developing forms that will go to our board of directors for review and approval, and it's possible they could ask for the coverage to be expanded as compared to what's presented initially.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Okay. Peter?
Thank you,
you're
Madam
okay.
Chair. Next, we are going to have an overview from Maeve Pistrang from the Cumberland County Community Development Block Grant Program. Maeve?
Good evening. Aaron Shapiro's out sick today, so I'm just going to fill in for him this evening. I'm the Community Development Coordinator for the program. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the CDBG program's grant selection process for the 2017 program year. This is meant to just be informational, no action needed this time. So 2017 marks the 11th year of Cumberland County's Community Development Program, and it's the second year of our current 5-year consolidated plan. As in the past, we'll have 2 public hearings as we move forward with the program, one at your April meeting and again at your May meeting, with final approval coming at your May meeting for submittal of our annual action plan, which will be submitted on May 13th. So the question this year is, how much money are we going to be getting? And at this time, we do not know. We don't know our 2017 HUD allocation, and Congress is next expected to vote for a continuing resolution at the end of April, so that's when we're expecting to know more. From what we're hearing, we are hopeful that the CDBG program will be level funded from last year, so hopefully getting something the same or similar, which was just a little under 1.4 million last year. It was 1,388,000 that we got. What we do know is that we have some leftover funds from last year as well that we would be rolling over into this new year, about 57,000. So how that would break out if we get the level funding is Cumberland County grants. There would be $718,000 available. For the South Portland set-aside, about $412,000. For the Bridgeton set-aside, about $185,000, and for county administration, about $130,000. Our grant selection process has been underway and has been similar as it has been in the past few years. We have a review team that reviews all of our grant proposals. This year we had members on that team from Gorham, Gray, New Gloucester, Cumberland, Harpswell, and also Jim Gailey and I served on that review team. We scored and ranked all the applications and also had an opportunity for the grantees to come in and present and answer any questions we had about their proposals. We presented those recommendations to the Oversight Committee last week, and those recommendations will be adopted and will be voted on next week, and will be ready for your April meeting. And then I'll just give you a snapshot of what some of those projects are that ranked high for the committee. And first off, I'll say it was a competitive year based on the funds we think that we're getting. We'll only be able to provide funds for 50% of the applicants, which would meet 35% of the funding requests. It looks like we'll be continuing our long-running housing, rehab, and homeless prevention programs, which are run through the Opportunity Alliance. Also, the work of Family Crisis Services for their domestic violence programs in the Lakes region. And a new program, Operation Hope, which is run by the Scarborough Police Department, which connects people throughout the region with substance abuse treatment. We'll also be providing funds to support public facilities in several of our smaller rural communities. Long Island has 2 projects. One was wharf improvements, and another was development of space in their community center for a clinic that could support telehealth connection and also a clinician to come in periodically to meet with people on island instead of them having to come to the mainland. Standish is looking to install a handicap access ramp for their historic library in Steep Falls. Casco is developing a new community park and recreation facility. And Harpswell also has 2 projects. One is in conjunction with Habitat for Humanity for home repair and weatherization program for seniors, and also funds to complete renovations at the Orrs and Bailey's Islands Fire Station. And depending on which funding we get, there might be a few more projects that could be funded beyond that as well. Moving on to the set-aside communities of South Portland and Bridgeton. The 2 set-aside communities run their own process for selecting their activities, but we all are part of one program. Neither of their selections are finalized quite yet, but for South Portland, we're expecting that they're going to continue funding 7 social service programs that they funded over the past few years. A few of those, they've got Meals on Wheels, they do heating assistance, the food pantry, the Red Bank Hub, which is a neighborhood resource center. Also, they're looking to fund facilities and infrastructure in the Red Bank neighborhood. Bridgeton is looking at funding 3 or 4 social service activities. Those will also be focused on basic needs like heating assistance, the food pantry, and connecting people to resources. They're currently scheduled tomorrow evening to have a select board meeting, but that will likely get pushed due to the weather, and they'll be making their final determination for their facilities and infrastructure projects as well. So again, we'll know more at the April meeting. And finally, I'll just say a few words about the HOME program. So this HUD program is exclusively for housing activities, and as you know, we're linked with the City of Portland and the Town of Brunswick in a consortium for those funds, and the City of Portland administers the funding. As with CDBG, we're hoping to receive something similar to last year, which was about $320,000, but again, that faces the same uncertainty as the CDBG funds at this point. In recent years, we've used the funds for single-family and multifamily housing rehab, and also new rental housing development. So just an update on some of the recently funded projects with that money. In 2015, we funded Bartlett Woods, which is in Yarmouth, and that's 28 units of senior housing, and that should be completed this summer. And then the senior housing development in Falmouth, which is Avesta's Blackstone Apartments, which were 19 units rehabbed and 20 new units built, and that should be under construction later this spring. For the housing rehab program, we do have projects sort of slowly move through, but the demand for that has not been as strong. Projects sort of just emerge sporadically. So what we're looking to do is use some of the older housing rehab funds and roll that together with the new 2017 home funds to support renovations in Westbrook for 83 units rehabbed and 39 new units of senior housing. And that's through the Westbrook Development Corporation for projects at Larrabee Commons and Riverview Terrace. And that's a project that's already funded and ready to go, but they've had a gap in their financing come up that our program could help fill. So to wrap up, we're early in the process, and final funding and final project decisions are still being made, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you have.
Do you have any questions?
Maeve, did you say in the home program we have leftover funds also, and how much do we have?
Yeah, there's funds in the housing rehab program. Let me find that. So there's about, let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, so there's about $230,000 in the funds that have already been dedicated for housing rehab that are not expended yet. Okay. So we'd be looking to take some of that out, or yeah, we're looking to take that out and put it towards the new year, and then some of the New Year's funds as well, so about another 230 of New Year's funds, anticipating that there'd be about 90,000 still left to devote to housing rehab this year, so that we wouldn't be totally eliminating that use of the funds.
Good. It sounds like the Falmouth and Westbrook projects are very worthwhile, and they'll be great for those communities.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, do you have anything? Yep. Did you have something that you can send to us, so,
Yeah.
oh, Amy, we can get it out to us? Okay.
Yeah, just the full list, sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, okay. Now, under the action items, the approval of the countywide phone system upgrade from facilities, and I think Mr. Tarbox is coming to speak on this. And it's so nice to see you here, Bruce.
I appreciate you inviting me tonight.
We don't get to see you much.
I know, and I miss that, I really do.
Well, I can change that, I'll make that a note.
Notice that. You'll be outside shoveling tomorrow.
I will, so we can all share that. So the request is for a new upgraded phone system. Currently, we have two systems scattered throughout basically two locations. The jail and the Wyndham location is all an older system that is over 20 years old. Biggest problem with that system is no longer supported, although I can have some come in and fix the problems with there's no longer a capability of buying parts for it, and I have to buy all used phones, and so it's a support issue that we're concerned about at those locations. Here at the courthouse, we have a newer system, but it's still 14 to 15 years old. Our goal, though, is to find one supported system that would act as one system throughout the county, so that we could now start using 4-digit connectability between our locations. That would be very important to us. So instead of obviously calling like their separate locations. So the new system is also VoIP, so it has a lot of bells and whistles that will help supporting us. Things such as room identification, so if there's an emergency, you can now actually determine what room actually the emergency came from. There'll be actually addresses with all of the phones, so that we can actually say if there's some type of emergency at the jail, or if there's an entry that should not be there, you could actually broadcast a message with these systems, warning actually the area where actually the intrusion might have happened, such as now you'd push a panic button on the phone. So there's a lot of things with the new system that will benefit us as we look forward to security and all the things that we do with our systems. So that being said, we, as a large group, mostly in communications, EMA, and others, like the courthouse and even the jail, was looked at some particular systems: OTT, CTI, D&D Enterprise, New England Communications, and Fairpoint. From that, I gathered ideas of what everybody really wanted from these systems. And then the large committee made recommendations of who they liked when we interviewed them, which narrowed them down to Fairpoint, OTT, and CTI. Brought us into a smaller group so that we could really take a look at the functionality, the cost, and did it fit our infrastructure. We still have older cables within these buildings, and what do we need to do to make this system work? The switches, how do we really want it to function? You could tag it along to existing computers, but we don't want to do that. We want to have it completely separated. The communication capability between the buildings, and what does that mean? So we really took a really good look at these systems, getting them down to the final three. One of the things we also look at whether they were hosted or non-hosted. A hosted system, and these are all VoIP systems, voice over internet protocol. So, and that's the newer technology, and that's what's really everybody's going to, so they're really well supported. But we looked at whether we wanted hosted or non-hosted. The hosted systems is when the PBX, or the brains, is actually actually owned by the company that is furnishing the dial tone and the things for us. So the hosted is really this PBX that is located off-site, connected to the county by fiber or other methods to communicate with that hosted. The great thing about a hosted system is we don't own it. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to keep the upkeep of it. We don't have to keep adding the new software, is keeping up with all the changes and the revs that go with this particular system. The non-hosted system, meaning we would own it. That means it is our responsibility for the PBX. And there are different costs associated with both of them. And so we took a good look at that. We looked at the options and what would probably be best fitting to us. So all of these decisions were made, were looked at by a smaller group. And so, long story short, it ended up with the recommendation of Fairpoint, OTT, and CTI. Fairpoint OTT was a hosted system, and CTI was a non-hosted. And if you look at the next page, there are additional costs that go with the install of both of these systems. And it depended on which we chose, hosted or not. And we have current Category 3. We need to change everything to Category 6 within our locations. We needed to be on that type of availability to have the bandwidth to support this particular type of phone systems. Based upon whether we went hosted or non-hosted, there's a different cost. So if you look at why there's a difference that I added to each of the two costs that I gave you, one is larger as far as the installation. Why? Because of what we need to prepare, which is our responsibility as the owners to support these different systems. So one had a $50,000 additional cost and one had a $30,000 additional cost. Mostly that was based upon the types of switches, the types of jacks, the types of equipment necessary to support whoever we chose. So if you look, there's a different cost, and although that there's and so you see the final cost end up being quite a separate apart. We chose not to choose Fairpoint for one reason. We could only lease it. And I really didn't want to get into, we have a capital program and we wouldn't be able to use that for the particular lease. It would be a huge strain on the budget. So the best idea is to try to buy as much of this as we could, own as much as we could, and at least get down to either the hosted or the non-hosted. And so we ruled out Fairpoint based upon the only way we could do it is they leased everything. And you know, with leases, it's great the first 3 years, and then after that, it starts to really go up on you. So I really didn't think we wanted to be in it. It'd be nice to just know where we're going to be over at least a 5 or a 7 year program with these. And after 7 years, technology changes quite a bit, so we can really take a look at it then. Who knows what 7 years brings to? Maybe we can just talk to our pens, I'm not sure. But anyways, you just never know where it's going to go. So long story short, between CTI, which is a non-hosted cost we looked at, came in at $271,536. If you do the hosted system, it came in at $127,867 by OTT. These are the final two companies that we thought were the best options for us. The monthly fees are different. So if you just look at it, the monthly fees with a non-hosted ended up being $3,530 because you still have to buy the copper lines. You still have to buy that technology, the older technology which supports getting out there and producing these calls. With the other one, it changes to $5,101, and that's the cost of them managing this off-site PBX and all the supporting components that they need to make dial tone work. So there's different costs. There's a huge difference in cost, but I wanted to reflect that and really bring that up because eventually they kind of catch up to each other in about 7 or 8 years based upon the monthly fees and the difference between those. I still think it's the right thing to do. I still think in 7 or 8 years when they finally catch up, even with the non-hosted systems, we'll have cost associated with that PBX having problems, and I can't quantify that at this particular time once the warranty runs out. So the recommendation from the committee finally ended up being OTT. We feel they're a great company. They'll do everything we want to do. The systems will do everything we want. They're a hosted system, so we don't have to manage that PBX ourselves. And so our recommendation to the committee is to you commissioners is to do OTT, but there's $70,000 in the capital account, and our recommendation is to go as far as we can with this $70,000. We do believe that'll support the Wyndham location and a portion of the jail, and we're hoping to maybe finish the jail complex area with that $70,000. I just don't know fully where it's going to be. We may need a few extra funds to support that. And then the recommendation is in 18, supporting the courthouse here with the final amount of cost for this particular system. And that's kind of where we're at, and I'll gladly answer any questions you might have.
Steve?
A couple of, you mentioned that in 18 we'd have to do more. Have you got a ballpark figure on what that will be?
We're figuring the system is going to run about $130,000. So you take the 70 from that. I'm saying $60,000 to $65,000 would finish this system up. What I'm really hoping is to get as far as I can with the jail. The biggest concern is obviously Wyndham. I mean, I'm not comparing systems, but obviously up there they've got, it's a 911 center. So, and those business lines are very important, and we're actually operating with a system that, you know, I'm having a hard time getting parts for. So we want to get that completely built out. And the remainder of that, I wanted to, I mean, that's probably not the wrong way to do it. It's very reliable. We've never had a call, but it's a concern of mine, and we want it to be as best as it possibly can and reliably. So, and then we want to move to the jail because they're constantly sending information to the jail back and forth. So then they would act like one system. And the courthouse is a little bit removed from that, so we can have the patience to wait on that. But once we do and connect those, it'll be very favorable to the communication center and how it communicates with the jail, and being able to send, people who are constantly asking for the civil department and things like that directly down there without saying, hey, the only way you're going to get there is hit our tree, and then they got to go through it, and then they call back, well, that didn't work, so this will really kind of make things better up there, so.
Do you have a guesstimate or a delta of what you think it'll take to finish the jail?
Yeah, my guesstimate is exactly $23,116. And it was expecting that question.
Additional?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's fair enough, and I hope we have a little talk about that. The other thing is this technology going to be fiber capable?
Fiber. Well, we use fiber now. We will connect.
I heard you mention copper lines.
Well, copper lines is for the older system. So that still has to ride on the copper.
So that'll be done away with?
That'll be done away with. What they do is now what they call a layer 2 fiber was what will be delivered to us. So you're absolutely right. The layer 2 fiber just means that it kind of communicates back and forth in a different way that doesn't take as much bandwidth, but it's still fiber that connects here. That being said, we do want to look at some redundancy up in Wyndham, and that may be brought in at copper, it'll work on both. And obviously Cat 6 is copper here in the buildings, so.
The other last comment I'll make is that since you run the CIP, I hope you're putting in for a new system 7 to 10 years from now.
Absolutely. I will do that. As you know, technology, but
Right.
I'm saying 10 years. I really think you can get 10 years out of this stuff now.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Okay.
I concur with
Yeah.
going with a hosted system.
Yes, I do too.
Just because, you hit it on the head, then it's somebody else's problem to keep it updated. And I think that's the way more and more things are going to go. So that makes all kinds of sense to me, even beyond just the financial aspect of it. So I think that's a good choice.
Steve?
Well, I would have one other comment is if it's possible to ask the manager to find the additional funds so that we make sure that we finish the jail. It's just an ask.
We can work on that. Right? We can work on it.
Well, that does raise the question, what's the installation timeline here? If we're
probably looking at if this is supported tonight, Wyndham, we're probably looking at 2 to 2.5 months, maybe 2 months out. And then I want to let it run for a little while and just, because I want to do that in sections. I want to do EMA first, and let's just see how it works, and then move up to the communication center. And down to the jail, we would have to start pulling in these Category 6 cables. So there's a little time frame with that as we move from Category 5 to Category 6 at the jail. Wyndham has already been done. That's been completed, so that could be started tomorrow if we wanted to.
So the answer to Commissioner Gordon's question about when we have to come up with this money is sometime in May to finish the jail?
Yeah, May, June, yeah.
I move passage.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any other discussion? Is I call for all those in favor with what were the presented, for us for this evening? Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
do
Bruce.
enjoy being back, I really do.
I could have it, so I will see you on April 11th.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, so that passed. Okay. Next, I am going to defer this to Jim on the fire alarm policy for Cumberland County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you. Before you this evening is the, what we hope is the final draft of the false alarm policy. As the commissioners are aware, this item was first brought to a workshop back in the fall of 2016. And at that time, there was general discussion. We heard from the sheriff who did a presentation of what his department was seeing in terms of calls over, I think it was a 4-year period. And those calls were false alarm calls, and they were excessive. And so from that dialogue in the fall, the commissioners tasked staff with developing a false alarm policy for consideration by the commissioners. That was done over a number of months and reported back in, I think it was February. We brought you a proposal and sought input on that draft proposal in a workshop setting. At that time, we received additional comments, and we moved forward in refining the proposal and brought it through another review by staff and ultimately a review by the county's attorney, Pat Dunn, who kind of scrubbed it for consistency and verbiage. And so we are before you this evening with what we feel is a good final version of the false alarm policy for the commissioners to consider this evening and ultimately, hopefully, approve this evening. Two other things that I have to update the commissioners on. You asked for those individuals that in 2016 had 3 or more false alarms just to be notified of this evening's meeting. We have done that. In addition, we've gone one step further, and we notified in writing 11 alarm companies that we were going through this policy review this evening, and just allowed them to participate in the meeting. And I don't see anyone from the public or from an alarm company here, but I just wanted to mention that we have gone that extra step and notified individuals that the commissioners were going to take up this policy this evening. So, thank you.
Commissioner Gordon.
Jim, can you make some comment about this policy in relation to communities?
This policy is very similar to what the communities that have police departments. We took this policy from 4 or 5 different Cumberland County towns' ordinances and kind of crafted it. There were when you get into a local police department, their purview is a little bit bigger than what ours is, so we had to really define what our goal was. And I did that through working with the sheriff and Bill Holmes up at the dispatch facility. And we kind of tailored a policy from others who had ordinances on the books currently to define what we wanted to do here.
Do we have any more questions or anything?
Yeah, this is something I know we've talked about it before. What about enforcement of this? Is this just a collection matter that we hire a collection company to chase people around, or what's the, how do we actually go about enforcing payment of the penalties for?
Right. Staff here at the courthouse will do the collection side. We'll be sending out letters for the collection. I think I would like, at this point, to really not define a collection process, but to see how things unfold here at the county, and then come back to the commissioners if we feel as though we have the, an issue on enforcement.
I mean, I think that's, I mean, I think that's probably wise to kind of feel this out as time goes on, because this, we don't really have a, you know, it's not like, we don't have a captive court system that we can, like, give traffic ticket type things, you know, to folks. And so it's a little bit problematic about how you actually, how you actually do this. I assume that the, Pat Dunn is not concerned that we have the power to do this? I mean, that we have the right to impose this type of a fine?
Well, she is here, and she gave us, she scrubbed the document
Okay.
before it came to you, so.
I think under the county charter, you have the right to do this.
Yeah, I mean, we have, I know we have very broad powers under the charter, and I'm not looking for problems. I just assumed that you gave some consideration
Yes,
to that.
no, we had a discussion on that, and I concurred that this was an appropriate process for the commissioners to adopt.
Okay.
If I could just add one piece, I talked about notifying 3 or more false alarms, the property addresses, whether they're commercial or residential. I talked about alarm companies, but we also have notified the town managers in the communities that we, you would probably most often find false alarms that we're responding to. Just in case they get a call, they can refer those calls to us.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Kevin, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any more concerns, or have,
No, Jim has been pretty good about communicating, and I've penned a couple of things or asked questions on how we're going to enforce it, who's going to send out the billing, because I don't have the staff to do that. You know, I think that once this is out there, we're going to see the number of burglar alarms, false burglar alarms, go down. As you know, we spend a lot of time chasing those. And to answer the question on the town managers, I've talked to a couple that did get Jim's email, and they're good with it. I mean, it's a responsible thing to do for the municipalities to tighten up their operation as well. So I think it will help us out a lot. I agree, the devil's in the details as far as enforcing it, but we've got to try it and see how it goes.
Yeah, but as a matter of public policy, can you give us the impetus for this, which was the amount of resources that you were devoting to it versus, and that was the reason to reduce it?
Yeah, Commissioner Watonis asked the question once, because we do chase a lot of alarms. You know, I can remember when I was on the street, you know, actually going from Gray over to Baldwin, only to find it a false alarm, you know. And the person waiting at the other end thought, you know, I stopped and got lunch on the way. So, I mean, you know, the reality is, with few resources, it allows us to at least tighten up. I mean, you know, I heard somebody say, well, you know, what if we just don't go to burglar alarms after the third time, you know, especially if they don't pay. I'm not going to get into that. I mean, the reality is we should go. But if it's a false alarm and it becomes a real problematic, we've had some municipalities, some schools, one of which we went about 30 times in 6 months. And finally, we had to say, look, we're not going to respond again if this continues to go on, because it's ridiculous. I mean, it was night after night. So I think truly the municipalities who've done it, you know, people have tightened up, and they don't want to have this $25 fine or whatever it is the first time. You know, they get in touch with their alarm company and said, hey, whatever I've got going, we need to fix it. Admittedly, in some cases, it's just the pet dog or the cat that runs across the beam and sets off the alarm, and, you know, I think we can deal with that. But there are others where it's a real problem.
okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move passage.
Okay. Do I have a second? Do we have any other further discussion? Is that call for a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Okay. Next, under old business, do we have any old business? The only thing that I have under old other business is the same old other business that we have every year, that we need to plan with where we're going to take our meetings on the road. And who wants to be, Jim, you don't have to do that. I know that you want to. I know that you want
I'm
to.
trying to comply, I try every month.
I know. So we've had one in Scarborough, we've had it in my area, so the two areas I think that I'd like to concentrate on would be, how about yours and Steve's?
Well, I mean, possibilities for me are Westbrook, South Portland, and Cape Elizabeth, and I would, South Portland, we can almost see it from here, so I think I'd like to try for Cape Elizabeth or Westbrook.
Okay.
Probably, I mean, what's the most convenient, what's the reasonable, like May or June or something like that?
Yeah, well, let's get out of the snow band.
Yeah, well, that was my thinking, so.
Maybe we can try it for May?
May, okay, and.
May.
What's the date of that meeting going to be? Do we know? Or what?
Somebody have a calendar? The second in May.
May 8th?
8th.
May 8th?
Yep.
May 8th.
Let's see, whoops, sorry, let's just make sure I'm actually going to be here.
And Steve, do you want to see if you can set something up for June or?
Yeah, I will. You want it June?
Well, we can, or we can come back here in June, or we can go on the road. It's up to you.
All right,
I
I'll
don't
try,
know.
let me see if I can, what I can do with Brunswick.
Okay.
May 8th.
May 8th, okay. Does anybody else have any old business? Okay. Under new business, do we have anybody with new business? What's that say? Oh,
I'm joking.
oh, well, no, but that's gonna be, yeah. Okay. We don't have any new business? Peter or Jim?
Not that I'm aware of at this time.
Okay, yep, okay. Moving on to comments from the county manager.
Well, I've already made some comments, so I'm going to defer to the assistant county manager and the other staff here who may want to say something.
Jim, comments?
Thank you. I'll be brief, hopefully. Just want to give everyone a legislative update. Bills are coming out at a good clip now. We broke the 1,000 mark today. So out of 1,800 plus bills submitted, probably close to 1,100 have been printed as LDs. We are starting to see a number of the bills that we're watching come to light and get scheduled for upcoming committee meetings over the next week or two. So I think the end of March, April will be a busy month in Augusta. The other item I'd like to update the commissioners on is last week we had the opportunity to cross the bridge over in South Portland and bring some of our employees with us. That is, and I handed out a document today to you all. That is because Cumberland County has joined the city of South Portland in participating in the city of South Portland's Leadership Academy. Coincidentally enough, this was something that I started back in 2014 with the HR director in South Portland when I was in South Portland. And we did it based on the fact that we felt as though we wanted to invest in our employees. With the retirements that we were seeing in the baby boomer generation and a turnover in the top level of our staff, we wanted to prepare what we considered our rock stars, the up-and-coming individuals in our ranks, prepare them to take that next step. Not only prepare them in terms of written work, but also give them the confidence that they will raise their hand and be willing to take on more responsibility within the ranks of municipal government. It also was a retainage tool also, as I did not want to create a culture in South Portland that was a stepping stone for another municipality or another government body to take away my employees that I'm investing in. So it was a retainage tool. So that's kind of the backdrop of why we did it. But what this is it's a 7-week intensive. It is every other Thursday. It starts this week, right, Amy? You guys start this weekend? Yep. And it will be every other week for the next number of weeks. And it is a 8 to 3:30 event at SMCC. We partnered with SMCC in developing the curriculum and finding the professor to do the teaching. And it has been a terrific marriage between the two entities. This year, we were able to get 16 employees of the county to join. I believe it was 15 employees of the city of South Portland. And all 31 employees will participate in the class together starting this Thursday. Last Thursday, we had kind of the kickoff to the whole event, and that was an opportunity for all the employees that have been nominated to meet at the South Portland Community Center. We had representation from SMCC there, as well as City of South Portland and Cumberland County department heads, all attended and introduced those who were going to be in the 2017 class. So we're looking very forward to how our employees go over the next number of weeks and what they feel they get out of this class. I would tell you that in 2014, when we first sent the first 25 employees in South Portland, they went kicking and screaming. They really didn't know what they were in for. They felt as though we were setting them up. They had better things to do. They couldn't lose 8 hours of work at the office, and it is mandatory. This is something that they can't go to 3 out of 7 and call it good. This is something that 1 is all right, but 2 is too much. And so upon the completion of this Leadership Academy, the mood was completely changed. We had individuals that never knew one another from different departments getting along, sitting together at what we called the graduation at the end of it all. And it was a really feel-good moment that we had 25 employees at that time that went kicking and screaming but came out with a whole different opinion. And I think in your packets, there is an article that was in one of the local newspapers talking about that and giving a snapshot of 2 and 3 employees of what they got from such a Leadership Academy. So we're thrilled to be part of it, and I just wanted to share this opportunity with the commissioners this evening, just to give you the heads up that we're moving in that direction over the next month and a half. Thank you.
Thank you. Would we have any other comments on this? Okay.
Great job.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yep. Okay. Steve, comments from the...
Any other executive staff?
Oh, I'm sorry, with the executive, I'm sorry. That's a new thing I put in there and I wasn't paying attention. Comments from any other of the executive staff?
Actually, mine
Alex.
isn't going to be financial in nature. It's, as one of the department heads that was able to go to that and with an entirely new, relatively young staff and able to nominate one of them for was very, very exciting. And I'm just, came away very thrilled that this leadership training is occurring. I think it's going to be fantastic for some new folks that I have on my staff and a great way to get them going. So I really thank Jim for that.
Oh, Amy.
As somebody who was asked to be part of the Leadership Academy, I will back up what Alex said, and coming away from the event last Thursday was really exciting and felt really great, and I'm really looking forward to the whole process. So,
Martha.
I'll piggyback sort of on what Jim said, but we had a lot of shy introductions, so a lot of hesitancy and nervousness, so I'm looking forward to being on the other end and seeing what Jim has discussed with the results from South Portland. And what I think is going to be incredibly valuable as well is the blending of two communities by having the graduates from both sides get to know each other better, different departments, different disciplines. I think that's going to be extremely valuable over time, and I'm looking forward to seeing how folks have changed and come out on the other end. So thanks for the money to be able to do this. I think it's incredibly important.
Okay. And do we have any other executive staff here? No? Okay. Now we're moving on to comments from county managers, county commissioners. Steve?
Well, two things, and Jim mentioned it, I'll just want to emphasize his, he talked about legislation is underway from, at the state level, and nobody's safe while that's happening. There is, I understand there's over 1,800 bills, and I guess we passed 1,000, as you reported. So we've got to work, or he's got his work cut out for himself, because as I understand, there's a little over 30 related to just counties, with some ancillary things. So that's a number of issues that we all have to monitor and make sure is to the advantage of the county citizens. The second one is, just to repeat what's going on right now, is remember there's a big snowstorm that's coming, and be safe. If there's any way you can stay home and not be on the road, please be safe. It's going to be a tough time, and take care that you've got supplies in the home should you lose power and you can't get out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I would first like to say thank you for all the efforts, Peter, that you have contributed to the county. When you showed up here some 18 years ago, the landscape was totally different. You have built a great foundation for us to continue on, and I do believe when you say that we are the best county government in New England, in large part to your vision and your efforts and recruiting great people and great staff members. It's not just one. You've been a good team leader, and we appreciate that, and Cumberland County will always be thankful for all the efforts you've contributed. You're not going far away, we know that, but again, thank you for all you've done. We had our annual retreat between the commissioners, and this year we invited the department heads that took place a couple weeks ago. We did it off-site, and it was a very engaging, I thought positive source of information, and I think the department heads appreciated that. The executive staff contributed to it, and it helped us focus where we need to be in the next year and gave us a number of ideas where we need to go in sort of a three-year plan. So I always think taking the time, if you can find it, to reassess what you're doing well, what you need to do better, is always very valuable. I want to thank all the staff members that were there to help us accomplish that. Echo what Steve said about the impending storm, and in advance thank our staff members who are out there, whether it's members of the EMA or the Sheriff's Department, or people keeping the buildings safe to get into and out of. We appreciate all your efforts, and for all you citizens out there, do be safe as well. We appreciate input from the community, and the input tonight from the corrections officers was it's very helpful to get that feedback. I would encourage all of you that are still there, take it back to your folks, that you also need to take that message to your state legislature, because this is largely a funding problem from Augusta and a lack of funds that are available. So use that passion and go to your state legislators as well, and we can all work better together as a team. And thank you for being here tonight. And a final shout out here to the girls from Gorham basketball team. They finished an undefeated season. It's actually 2 undefeated seasons in winning the state championship. So congratulations to the gals from Gorham and to all the other teams that competed throughout the season and in the playoffs. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, Jim.
I want to join the comments about Peter's tenure as at times the maestro, and at many times the kind of the person who, as one of the speakers already said tonight, was a solutions guy when issues bubbled up and required some creative thinking, and the application of resources that had to be gathered from various places, and Peter was a master and has been a master of that, and he's going to be missed. And congratulations to the people of Auburn for making a wise decision. I hope that is anywhere near as positive as your tenure has been here. I've been here long enough to know what it used to be like, and you've been here long enough to know what it used to be like before I was here, and it truly has been a great change, and you've kind of guided a lot of that, and to good purpose, and so good for you. You really have something to be proud of. The last significant contribution was the retreat, which I thought went very well and resulted in the development of some solid ideas for the next 3 to 5 years. And we'll, as we said at the time, we have ideas about how we could function better to the interests of the people of Cumberland County. Our basic responsibility is to open the store every morning. We understand that, and so we're continuing with that effort. It's kind of ironic that we talked about that 2 weeks ago, and then tonight we had the discussion or the presentation of ideas from folks about the the county jail. Just so people know, and I'm sure anybody that ever watched our proceedings over the last few years knows, we've spent endless hours trying to deal with what is basically a chaotic state policy about jails. We are well aware that the Cumberland County Jail is one of the largest mental health facilities in Maine. It is the crisis intervention event and location for hundreds of people every year. We know that too. We know that the challenges are very great for the people that work there, and despite all of that, and despite kind of the irresponsible way in which jails have been managed throughout by the state, this jail has gotten itself accredited and certified as a high-quality institution that functions in the best interests of the people who are detained there, and that's a great credit to the people that are there. As the sheriff said, we are in a year where one of the aspects of the chaos and neglect from our friends in Augusta has resulted in the fact that we are prohibited from spending any money beyond a certain point. That prohibition we are trying, along with others, to get repealed so that in the future we will at least be able to fall back upon the resources of the people of Cumberland County as we might need to in order to maintain the quality of the institution and to have in place the resources and the program facilities and opportunities to maintain a safe and as much as possible constructive institution. That prohibition may well end by the end of June. We have some pretty good hope that it will. Beyond that, however, the state functioning, which included, I mean, you don't really run into this very much anywhere. It included the fact that an attempt to repeal a law was unsuccessful, so therefore the governor just simply refused to appoint anybody to the board, so they couldn't vote. And that was the collapse. That led to the collapse of the system. I mean, it was you just don't see that much. We're supposed to, every once in a while, we raise our right hand and say we're gonna run government like a business. You never see that in business. It's preposterous, but it did happen, and contributed to the chaos that we've been enduring. And the people who bear the brunt of the chaos, we know it, we have known it, we continue to know it, are the people who are trying to function in a system that lacks leadership and lacks rationality. So, we can't do an awful lot about it. You have our apologies for it. We believe that you've done remarkably well, given the challenges. Next year, we have a chance to do a few things differently. But I will say one thing about the inmate ratios and how that management has occurred over the last year or so. We have a jail administrator who has made recommendations related to maintaining safety in the jails. We insist, we will close the place if we think it's unsafe. That we've made that abundantly clear. So we want to know if there's a difference of an opinion. We want to know if people feel that they're put in circumstances that are unacceptable or frightening. We certainly need to know that the Cumberland County Jail is being operated in a way that assures the safety of all. It's not just the staff, of course. The staff well recognizes that includes the safety of the inmates, and it has to exist. We have at times contemplated reducing the capacity of the jail in light of this chaos that we've been dealing with. We've done that in certain ways. We've certainly shifted things around, and the sheriff and the leadership at the jail continue to rack their brains as to how to make this work. And of course, everybody's ideas are welcome. I separate all of that from any ongoing positives or negatives about whether we're able to put a union contract in place sooner or later or not. That is a different sphere as far as I'm concerned, and we actually don't get to discuss that in public, and we won't. But that's, like I say, that is independent of the need for that to be a safe and positive facility. So that's what I have to say. I appreciate the people that came out and spoke. I have had some correspondence about it, and I'm sure I'll have more. But that's not just my point of view. I think it's a shared point of view on this board.
Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Firstly, Peter, I'll add my grateful appreciation for everything you've done for the county for the last 18 years. I want to add my personal thanks for all the help you've given me in kind of finding my feet in this job, and I really appreciate you kind of keeping me pointed in the right direction when when I have need information or need some discussion about policy and what is possible and doable for county government. I'm sure the people on this end of the room are aware. I go to monthly meetings at the Maine County Commissioners Association. We generally, Cumberland County usually goes with an entire delegation. I feel like I'm the UN ambassador or something, and I've got my experts sitting behind me. So if a question comes up, usually about jails, because the Maine County Commissioners Association spends probably 9/10 of its time talking about jail funding. I can just turn around, and Peter's behind me, who can give me whatever bits of information that I may need to not sound like a complete idiot when I'm talking about the subject with the other county commissioners in the state. So, Peter, this whole whole experience, you've really helped me tremendously with all of that. So I really appreciate it. I'm sorry to see you go. I think Auburn is getting a great asset in you, and happy to have met you and happy to have worked with you so closely, so thank you very much. Having said that, for the corrections folks that turned out tonight, thank you very much for coming down and talking to us directly. It's rare that we have any members of the public or anybody come and talk to us. Usually we sit here just amongst ourselves, these folks at the end of the table, and it's nice. Welcome to you or anyone else to come down and talk to us and tell us your point of view. I go to a lot of meetings in this job, either these meetings or the County Commissioners Association or other things. I come home from the meetings, my wife says, "What did you talk about?" And I say, "What did you think we talked about?" She said, "Not jail financing again," because that really is an obsession that we have on this board. And I have to say that, quite frankly, and for reasons that Commissioner Cloutier has laid out in detail, as long as I've been a commissioner here, the funding the jail has been essentially an exercise in lurching from one crisis to another. I think this is not our doing. This board did not cause the problem, but we have been we've spent the last several years trying to correct the problems that have been caused in Augusta with their mismanagement of the jail funding system. And with the collapse of the Board of Corrections, that was once again not any of our doing, has left us with very difficult choices to make. So we are committed to running a jail that is safe for everybody, the people who work there and the people who are incarcerated there. We will keep doing that. At this point, this is largely a political issue that we are dealing with. And I would like to report that the Maine County Commissioners Association has a delegation going to meet the governor next week to talk about jail funding. I think the governor needs to hear from us just as we need to hear from you about that situation. I would recommend, there's an article in the Press Herald today that Sheriff Joyce was interviewed for it. There's a nice picture, Kevin, of you there. It is an excellent article that will give you kind of the blow-by-blow of what happened to the state jail funding system. And anyone who wants to get the perspective on that part of it, read that article. I mean, it really gives you in a very few paragraphs, gives you the basics of what the situation is. And we are hopeful that we will have a little more financial freedom next year than we have had in the past. And this is a situation that took me a long time to understand it and to get my head around. But you come and talk to us about this, you're pushing against an open door, essentially. I mean, we are looking for ways to essentially, help all of us fulfill our desires for the smooth functioning of the jail. And I would say also, to change subjects, that snowstorm is coming. I was originally scheduled to leave tomorrow morning at 5:30 in the morning on a plane to go visit my 95-year-old mother on the occasion of her birthday in the Midwest. Well, of course, that's not happening tomorrow, and I'm hoping to get out. I'm hoping to get out by Thursday, and I plan to be home with a hot drink and a roaring fire in the pellet stove, and hoping that the power stays on long enough to catch up on some of my movie watching or something tomorrow, because I have the feeling I'm not going to set foot outside, and I urge anyone who has the option of doing that to stay home. I think they're still talking about potentially 18 inches of snow, which may set a personal record for me for one day, witnessing one day snowfall. So, let's all batten down the hatches and stay safe. Thank you, sir.
And now I'm up. Peter, I want to say thank you for this 17 years of service. that you have given to the county. I have been with you, this has gone into my 7th year as a commissioner, and I think, well, before that, I was on with the BAC, with the Budget Finance, Committee, so I've been involved with you for about, 10 years. I wish you well in the town of Auburn, and you won't be without a Watonis. I have family that lives there, and I'm sure that they will come and visit you, because I've heard some topics of discussion, but I stay right out of the politics in other cities. A couple,
Especially in Auburn.
especially in Auburn, right. The river is right there. A couple of things is, this week, I attended, or was it last week, I was a meeting at the Cross Insurance Arena. I am on with the negotiating our committee for the possibility to bring our hockey team, over to Portland. It's in the early stages. We had 2, competitive bids, and that is going to start with the talks. I think it's next week or pretty soon. The other thing is with the jail. It does not go on our deaf ears. Well, for those of you who know me at the jail, I have spent, and I don't mean in a pod, I have spent more time at the jail. I have been there at nights. I have seen, 7 o'clock at night. I've seen 3 in the morning at night. So I know what you're going through. And I am very big on our public safety, as all of you know. I have been working with the Sheriff's Office now for about 6 years on public safety issues. So I do encourage you, to contact your legislators, because it's beyond, with what how the commissioners here, can do. I am on the receiving end of being able to go to the meeting with the governor. I thought that would be a good one. I'm sure it's going to be is interesting meeting, because he was the one that dissolved with a committee for the jails. So I'm hoping that he will be on the receptive side, to listen. And I don't know if he has ever been to our jail for a visit. I would be more than glad, to reach out to him. He's not a friend of mine personally, but he is of the Watonis family. So I have that opportunity. I might be able, to reach out there. So I don't know. So we will try to do, with what we can. I do encourage your comments, to come, to us. And I think with that note, I will, yes.
One piece of work that I think we're obligated to put forth, that at the CIA meeting, there were 3 commissioners.
Oh, yes, I did, yes. At the, was at that meeting,
Right.
Was in attendance was myself and Steve, and then when Neil came. So there, at any time when there are 3 commissioners at one time in a room, it's considered a meeting. So I just want to put that out there, that we were in attendance. So if there are no other comments from the commissioners, that we can, I will move on to agenda planning. As far as some of the stuff that's going to go on in the agenda planning, I think it's going to be with a discussion of with what we came out of with the retreat, with what we want to add, for workshops. So I don't know with what anybody has with the workshops, if you have any ideas, if you want to get back to me. I do know that in April, the Food Council with Jim Hanna would like to come and do a presentation. I would also like to have Bruce come and do a CIP, for what's going on. And I don't know if there are any other workshops that we want to have, or if you have any thoughts, Steve.
Are we still going, we're planning on a commissioners meeting or a workshop the 27th?
Yes, the 27th. What?
So we should just send you by email if we have any suggestions?
Yes, maybe if Bruce, do you think Bruce is ready for that CIP?
No.
No,
No,
okay.
we are still out with the department heads, asking
Okay,
them
right,
to
yes.
take a look at the final list and then prioritize
Okay, yeah.
internally of what their projects are.
Okay.
So I would say that the earliest we would be prepared would be the workshop in April.
April. Okay, yep, so, if anybody else has a workshop that they would like to come up with to give staff more time to get back to us, well, Peter?
Just a suggestion to think about would be a follow-up to the retreat that you
Yep,
had.
yep.
Staff
We
to
could do a-
talk about some of those issues.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. We could do a follow-up for the retreat, and that will be March 27th. Follow-up on the retreat. And Peter, what you will have was something for me at that time that you had mentioned with today from Craig?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe we can get a legislative update then, too?
Yeah, yeah. We can get a- And we can also probably give you the update on the meeting with the governor.
Sue, are you on the list
Yes.
with MCCA?
Yes.
Because we had to,
Yes, yes, myself is on there, Steve is on there, Jim is on there, and the sheriff.
You're suggesting, Tom, this is by invitation only?
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the governor had to have they had to have the list of people who was going to go, how many and who. They were talking about that last week at the MCCA.
What's the date and the time, next week?
It is the 21st
At 11 o'clock.
at 11 o'clock in
Is
the
that
governor's
Tuesday?
office.
Is that what, that's a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yep,
Yes, it's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yep, Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
Yep.
And it's actually in the governor's office?
In the governor's office.
Whoa.
And theoretically, this is, the ball has started rolling with Kennebec County Manager, who is probably going to be not happy with this all turning up.
Oh, okay.
Although, I mean, my feeling is, you know, we've all got the community of interest in this thing, so, and they were looking for representatives from MCCA to, you know, to be there, so we want to be there.
I'm sure you'll all represent us well. Thank you.
Okay. If we have nothing else, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session.
Madam Chair, I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Title I MRSA, Section 4056C, to discuss issues regarding union negotiations with our county attorney, and pursuant to, and also personnel matter dealing with the replacement of Peter.
That would be two separate,
Separate.
yeah, well, two separate ones?
Right.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's take 5, we'll shut these off.